Hey everybody, this is JDGaming back today with a video that quite honestly I never thought I was going to make. And basically I have to go all the way back to why did I start playing Yu-Gi-Oh in the first place? Well, back in the day, it was probably right about when I was going into second grade in 2002, so 17 years ago as of now, which is just mind-boggling to me. One of my friends, my best friend at the time, ended up introducing me to this game by giving me just some of his random commons from Magic Ruler, cards like Crab Turtle, Metal Fish, things like that. And as someone who had grown up playing video games like Banjo-Kazooie and Super Mario 64, and had grown up watching things like Arthur, Pokemon, other animations on TV and stuff, it was just really interesting seeing kind of what honestly was relatively edgy at the time, especially for a second grader, in Yu-Gi-Oh! And instantly, I just saw these creatures and I thought, wow. As weird as 𝗕𝗲𝗹𝗹 looks, this game just looks really freaking interesting. And so it became just another major part of my life, as eventually I kind of extended my video game animation and that type of, I guess, hobby into actual other forms. So like Yu-Gi-Oh, watching that anime and then seeing its source material in the manga, and then branching out into other forms of Shonen Jump, and then ultimately becoming the kind of artistic person that I've become. Fast forward a little bit to 5th grade, and it was an awesome time for me because as someone who had been playing the game nearly from the beginning, it was cool to see that everyone was into Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. It was the fad at the time, kind of like every once in a while in school you have like Rubik's Cubes become the fad, or fidget spinners were a fad, you know, things like that. Things come and go, but for me, as someone who had been playing the game for a long time, it was really cool to be able to see all these other people share the same kind of joys. But, of course, as I said, it was a fad. For a lot of other people, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was just something that people did because it was the in thing at the time. But for me, it was something that I had grown up with and I wanted to continue growing up with. So I continued liking it just as I do through middle school, high school, honestly through college, and even through now. And although nowadays I have a different outlook on it, it was kind of weird, right? Because when you're trying to grow up and develop your own sense of identity, it can be discouraging and downright terrifying to see all these other people move on from something that you liked with them, especially if it's, say, that best friend who's no longer really a friend because you drifted apart and who had introduced you to the thing originally, which ended up happening to me. Long story short, it's always been a personality trait of mine to like these types of creations. When I see the world of Pokemon and all the creatures that they're continuing to make, or when I watched Wallace and Gromit and the frame-by-frame stop-motion animation, I was just amazed at the fact that either an individual or even a team of people were able to create this lively world out of nothing. And they took a concept and turned it into a way to experience lives that you may not otherwise in your own real life. Push the boundary of what people are able to do, create new universes that people can explore, experience, and share. And that's what Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been for me at its core. It's been something that, yes, I enjoyed as a hobby, but it was just one of many worlds that I really liked going to. Nowadays, I had a lot of fun because when I started with college a few years back, now I've graduated last year, I was able to explore more of what I loved about this game. Suddenly, I, as someone who had loved this game since its inception pretty much, was someone who was able to share classic things as well as just tips and tricks that I'd learned reading articles, playing the game, and I was able to share my knowledge of the game and my passion for the franchise, and that was a really unique experience. It honestly started, this channel honestly started as just a means for me to buy some product because I thought that'd be cool, sell it, and then make some money so that, you know, I'd be able to do whatever I need to in college. But it evolved into something where I was able to just freely share my passions for Yu-Gi-Oh!, the game, the franchise, everything about it that I loved, with thousands now of people who thought the same way. And that's just such a cool thing, I feel, that I am able to do something in my life where it's not for money anymore. It's not to make my livelihood. It's just I cared about this for the longest time. I care about it, and so I'm able to share that experience with you guys and in many ways, hopefully, make some kind of a positive impact on your lives. More recently, though, I was getting a bit worried, let's say. I wasn't spending as much time playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I finally decided to catch up on a lot of things that I'd missed out on, hanging out with some more people from back in the day, trying some new projects of my own, like my second violin and art channel that I introduced a couple times on this channel. Just playing old backlogs of video games and watching shows that I'd been putting off for a while just because I felt I don't have the time to do this. And while that was awesome for me in terms of my mental health and just overall enjoyment of life, because I was finally able to make do on promises I'd made myself years ago, I ended up drifting a bit away from the game, and most recently I ended up exploring the new card game, or new-ish to me, 𝗕𝗲𝗴, which is basically, I nickname it 𝗥𝗶ℴ because basically it takes famous anime, manga, games, and then turns those franchises into a card game. And as someone who grew up playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, watching Pokemon, and all the stuff that I just described, it was the coolest thing ever, because I was not only able to enjoy the franchises that I very much enjoyed, that impacted my life in some way, in a new format, but I was able to take the knowledge that I gained from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Through various formats and speeds of the game over decades now, and actually feel like it was translating into something useful. Like, it felt like the knowledge I gained playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Was more applicable in this other card game that, quite honestly, took more of that kind of skill to fully enjoy. It's not to say that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has no skill, it's just the different kind of skill set necessary to play the faster games of today just wasn't something I was enjoying nearly as much. And for the first time in my life, I had this fear that I was falling out of the game with Yu-Gi-Oh! And as someone who's multiple times said, I'm never going to quit playing Yu-Gi-Oh! This is something that I'll enjoy forever. It's kind of terrifying, right? Even when things in my life changed, friends came and went, I moved on through different parts of my life, through different parts of school, now I'm graduated and I'm working full-time as a pharmacist. All these different things changed in my life, and I grew as a person through those stages, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a nice constant that I could always fall back on, something I always enjoyed, and that I could always count on to be there. And I was really having doubts. I was afraid that I just didn't feel that same kind of joy anymore. I played a few games of 𝗕𝗲𝗴 with my brother and realized that I couldn't remember the last time I had that much fun playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And that was, for lack of a better word, it was terrifying. It was scary to think that something that had been this important to me was something that I just couldn't enjoy anymore. And so I was very close, extremely close, to just shutting down this channel before it got to another milestone of 3,000, before I started feeling like I owed you guys more stuff because we made it to another benchmark that I can't really quit. I thought I was going to just end it all. There were, of course, doubts in my head. Like, I started thinking, well, what if I regret it later, and all these things, and I thought about the various ramifications of ending it, but for a good amount of time, I just couldn't see myself really making a script, recording it, and having a lot of fun in the same way that I used to. And yet, the reason that this video exists here is because despite how close I got to being this afraid of stopping the game, ultimately, I was able to look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Again after a decent break with a new set of eyes, a mixture of nostalgia and yet a new kind of perspective where I enjoy the game for what it is now. It's not the same Yu-Gi-Oh! That I grew up with. Honestly, throughout the different parts of my life, it's always been a slightly different thing. And yet, I feel that it's made such a positive impact, and it's still able to make a positive impact. I started rebuilding some of my old decks, trying out some new decks that I'd been meaning to for a long time now, and while it may not always work the exact same way I had planned, it's still something that ultimately is able to get me some kind of enjoyment again. And so through this kind of up and down, back and forth journey, I was able to rediscover parts of myself from the past, and I think that was really cool. It ended up making me realize that, yeah, I may not enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! In the same exact way, and I did go through, kind of an uncertain phase here where I thought I was going to quit. but I ended up rediscovering that joy, and I am very happy to announce that this is not the end of JD Gaming. Just like the title says here, this is the end of an era. What I plan on doing now is giving the channel kind of a breath of fresh air, a reboot, where I plan on taking an undefined amount of time off. Maybe it'll be a few weeks, maybe it'll be a month, maybe it'll be longer. I really don't think it's going to be longer than maybe a month. But essentially, I have these really cool, fun ideas, or at least I think they're cool and fun, to revamp and rebrand different aspects of JD Gaming, clean things up a little bit, maybe get a backlog of a few videos that honestly I have these cool ideas for that I'm just really itching to try out, and I want to make an event out of it. We're really close to 3K. Maybe it'll be right when I hit that marker, just about there. But I have these ideas I want to implement, spend some time, nurturing, creating, crafting, and then relatively shortly, I think, after just a bit of a break, I am going to come back stronger than ever in a new era of JD Gaming with a little bit bump up in production value. I'm still doing this just for fun, and honestly, I think that's the biggest thing. I had drifted away from Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of like it's possible to drift away from, the sport you used to play in high school, or the musical instrument that you grew up with but you no longer have time to play. Video games and movies you may not have played or seen for a while. It's easy as people to just get carried away with whatever life has for you now in the moment, and naturally kind of fall away from things. Some people embrace that idea. That's just life. You liked something, that's great, but you move on. But for me, especially with Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's been such a lifelong journey that I want to continue it. I want to actively continue pursuing this hobby and continue bringing you guys enjoyment, because that entertainment value I provide for you also comes back to me as this immense sense of pride. So thank you very much, you guys, for sticking around. I know it's kind of sucky that I'm going to be taking more time off, but rest assured, I will be back with a lot more fun stuff in the works. So hope you guys are as excited as I am for this. I don't know if it really is coming across in just a voiceover, but I just can't wait to come through with some of these ideas. Honestly, a lot of it's still gonna be the same. I'm gonna do most of the same kind of content. Maybe if I come up with some really new series or something, maybe I'll implement it. But I do feel like I can brush up some things here, make things even more enjoyable for myself and for you guys as well. And I am looking forward to the next era of JD Gaming. So don't usually say it, but this video is going to be up for a while just so that it gets the message across to more people. So, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, ring that bell. It's a pretty good idea, because that way when I do finally upload again, you'll be able to pick up right where we left off without too much of a hiccup here. And if you have enjoyed, or maybe you missed out on a few other videos, a lot of you guys find my channel for one particular reason or another, but I do a lot of different things on my channel. I do the deck profiles, I do the 4 fun facts and other Google Translates, confusing cards, these types of series, because honestly, those are just the things that I have as my experience with this franchise. And so if you haven't checked those out, I wholeheartedly recommend them, because the whole point I made them was because I thought they were fun to create and to watch. So maybe catch up on some of those. But that's it for now, guys. Thank you once again very much. This is JD Gaming, unscripted for once here. Hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, I'll see you guys next time.